Hey, this is Jordan Mahome, and I'm with Chris Gordon.
Hey everyone, I have the absolute honour and the delight of the company of Jordan Mahome this evening, who is in The Punisher at the moment, which can be seen on Netflix. So hello, how are you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Thank you so much for coming on. I must also say you're in Ray Donovan as well, which is the other big show that you're in, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Season 5, Ray Donovan.
Excellent, excellent. I really appreciate you actually, obviously after I reached out to you, for you to come back and say you wanted to come on. That's absolutely brilliant.
My pleasure.
That's great. Always a pleasure. So, as you know, I've got a few questions to set up for you, and there's nothing too tricky in here at all. Maybe the last one, as I've just mentioned, but I'll catch you off guard for that one. there's about 9 or 10, I think, so I'm sure we'll have a good chat and hopefully get some more information about Jordan and find out where you've been and what your plans are.
Awesome.
First things first is what or who inspired you to become an actor, and like how old were you when that sort of you decided that's what you wanted to do?
For what I remember, when I remember getting the bug is when I did a speech competition that my entire school had to do, or entire 8th grade had to do at my school. It was an annual event, had been going on for decades. Mm-hmm. And everyone wrote the speech, and then it got whittled down over time. Like, okay, the best 20 speeches, and the best 10, and the best 5. And those 5 did it for an assembly for the entire school and for a bunch of judges. So I made it to the top 5 or 10, and then I won.
Awesome.
And I was like, oh wow! I just remember the audience reacting to my speech. Mm-hmm. And how great it felt to kind of give an opinion and move the crowd. And that was in the fall, I guess, of 8th grade. By the spring, I was in the 8th grade play. I was like, I'm going out for the play. I love it. And so then I did that. I went out for the play, and the play was a huge hit. And so that was really, really fun. And I did a play every year after that for like the rest of my life, I guess.
Wow.
Never stopped. I never stopped.
Excellent, excellent. So I was going to say that as well, because I mean, I originally started out that way. I loved theatre, but I gave up, whereas you obviously carried on. I didn't want to. I wouldn't say I gave up. I think I was sort of steered into a different direction, a more academic way how my parents put it. But I love I absolutely adore the theatre as well. It's that's what I love doing musicals and stuff, and I know that's where your passion is because I know you've done a lot of theatre.
I've done a lot of theatre,
yeah. So, in that kind of respect, do you prefer theatre or TV? Which is the medium? I know they're just like chalk and cheese. They're totally different, I guess. But
they're so different. I mean, I really love them both. I mean, I'm a theater guy. Mm-hmm. It's part of it all, just because I've done so much, but. I do love TV and film. Whenever I'm on set, I feel like I'm at home. Like this is where I'm supposed to be. And when I'm in a play, I feel like this is what I've trained to do, and this is what I love to do. Mm-hmm. But it's hard in New York or anywhere, I think, to sustain yourself as an actor just with theater. It's really, really tough. But you don't have you can't decide whether or not to be in a play or to be on TV and film. Like, you have to get cast,
Yeah.
So it's not up to you. People would love to say, well, I choose to do TV and film. I mean, you can go for TV and film and hope that it works out. It definitely is more lucrative. I have a family now. I have a young baby. And so I definitely, there's no way I can just do plays all year long. Unless, of course, you're on Broadway, but that's a whole nother, like, who's on Broadway all the time?
Yeah.
I think if you're on Broadway, 80% or 70% of the year, then you can make a living. Mm-hmm. But that's no easy feat. I don't really sing like that. So my Broadway prospects are very small. For a black man in New York, there are not a lot of straight plays, non-musicals that have young black men in the cast. It's not common.
Yeah.
So, but I've always right after college, I started doing TV and film, and I loved it. I loved it. It's a medium that reaches a wider swath of people. So it's always cool for your mom to be like, I saw my baby. He's on TV. So that's always cool. She comes to see my plays, but it's great if, I don't live anywhere near her anymore. So it's great for the family to see your work, because I feel like what we do, this storytelling, is all about people to see your work and to hear the story. So if you can reach more people, great. So TV and film, I love it as well.
Fantastic. And I say theatre is good. It must be difficult, like you say, for the roles out there. I was actually talking to an actress about this last week, and she's Colombian descent as well. And we were talking about the theatre roles there, and we just turned around, and the bona fide agreement from us both was, I think there's a lot of headway has been made at the moment, especially in TV world. Still nowhere near enough. But I think it was because of the female Doctor Who we were turning around, and we ended up saying, because it doesn't, at the end of the day, in my opinion, and obviously it doesn't matter to me what race you are, what sex you are. If there's a role out there, who gives a damn what where what you look like, or what what sex or gender, sorry, should I say, that you actually are. It doesn't matter. And like you say, you've actually done some fantastic Shakespeare roles as well, and that's for a black American guy doing Shakespeare is an amazing thing to see as well, because over here you see it quite a lot, because they change the parts around, and I think originally there was only like one Shakespearean role.
I mean, there's Othello and Aaron the Moor.
Yeah.
Aaron and Titus and Andronicus. And maybe one more I'm not thinking of. But the great thing about Shakespeare is that it's just storytelling. It's also, unless you get specific, like someone like Shylock.
Yeah.
He's, but they're Black Jews, so hey.
True.
But no, it's great that there's such like just humanistic roles, and that like it doesn't have to be only Othello or Aaron that you could play. But it's true, I love this idea of casting just based on the idea that this person can play the role, like you said, whether it be beyond gender or the ethnicity. It's nice to, and it's always great to see more women and more people of color in roles. Like, it makes things more interesting. Like, no one wants a world of white men on their TV, no offense. I'm sure you're not offended, but like, that's not the world, that's not the world.
Exactly.
It's boring. So yeah, I've been lucky enough to play a lot of different roles in Shakespeare. And, it's not a foreign thing to Black American men. I mean, there's a great story. There's that great play about the Black Shakespearean actor. The play is called Red Velvet. It's out now. It's been everywhere. But it tells the story of, I think, Era Aldrich, who the Black American actor who goes to London to do Shakespeare, and this, gets horrible reviews, and there's a lot of racism thrown his way. But Black men in America have been doing Shakespeare for decades. Unfortunately, you still have people putting on blackface to do Othello, even when there's lots of very talented Black men to do the role. But hopefully we won't see any more of that Laurence Olivier type blackface Othello. I haven't had a chance to play that role yet. It makes me nervous. That's a doozy.
It is. As Shakespeare goes, that's a good one.
Iago too, though. I want to play Iago just as much.
Excellent. I mean, I've got friends down here, like Royal Shakespeare Company I've talked to, and I say friends, I've been former guests or sort of acquaintances, and so it's just as you say, it's just a fantastic piece of theatre, and I think that's the way to go forward is to sort of it's just base. It's like in a job, you base something on talent and rather than what someone looks like, and I think that's how we should be going, and it is starting to get that way. And like you say, no,
you're right. Definitely more people of color and more women in lead roles, which is awesome. Still having a lot of firsts, though. A lot of like first Black woman to do this in first place. It's like, wow, really? We still haven't had some of these breakthrough moments. So it's great that we're having them, but it feels like we should have had them by now.
Exactly. It's like 2017. It's like not as if TV's been going nearly 100 years.
Yeah. Oh wow! Yeah, now she say it like that, it's true.
Which is, it seems to me it's quite shocking, really, isn't it? So it's actually great. And I say, I've asked the question about theatre and TV to all my guests because a lot of them I say do both, and the
Yeah.
answers I get back they are great. Most of them it's chalk and cheese, so they're totally different.
Yeah. They're so different. I
Yeah,
mean, one you have a mic right in front of you, and the other one is all physical. It's all your body, it's all your voice, and there's no retakes, and it's just you get the thrill of the audience right there. You can't beat that.
yeah.
But you usually can't live on that financially.
Yeah, because
So,
sadly the pay isn't there yet. It's like
yeah.
yeah, because obviously in theatre as well, each night you get a new audience, so it's basically a new
Oh,
experience. And
it's the best. And when you have kids, my favorite audiences are like teenagers, school groups, because they talk back, they laugh, they sometimes they're inappropriate, but it's like whatever, roll with it. Like we're professional, we keep the show moving.
yeah,
It's great to have that energy from them. I love that. I love
yeah,
that.
definitely. I mean, that's when I did theatre was at uni as well, and we had that. We had a whole school. We all the school kids come because we were actually doing Macbeth, and I was 7 characters, minor
Oh,
characters. So I was like the night watchman, and I was one of the lords. And there was just a couple of occasions. It's just when you said that there with the kids, it just sprang to mind because they're all like 15, 16. They're doing their exams, and I'm standing in the middle of them all because that's how the direction went. As the lord with the pipe, proper old fashioned pipe, bit the pipe during my soliloquy, and the tobacco just slow motion flew out the pipe and onto the floor. And obviously all the kids had seen it, and they were fits of laughter. And I was just, I just had to hold it together because I
we
was
have
just
to
like,
wait.
if I'd opened it. And the other one was when I was the night watchman. I was sat up on the stage in a nightgown or a nightdress,
Yeah.
completely unaware because as a bloke, I must say I don't normally wear night dresses or skirt type things. So I was
Right.
sat there as a guy with my legs wide open, just like giving my soliloquy, and obviously everything. Well, I had boxer shorts on, thankfully, but all these kids were sniggering and laughing away because I just realised what I was. I was like, oh no.
Oh my gosh! And they don't miss a beat
No,
either.
and they didn't tell me either. They can't let me carry on because it was the Night Watchman in Macbeth. So I love that character because it's the comic character, and it was just like they wouldn't tell me until afterwards. Like I thought it was just my acting ability that they were laughing at,
Yeah.
and they turned around and said, no, it wasn't. You had your legs quite up. I was like, oh
Oh my
no.
gosh! Oh, the kids will never let you forget that.
No, not at all. I did pantomime Dame as well. I won't go into that, but that was even better because that was supposed to make him laugh.
Right.
Excellent. So, kind of knowing what you do now, then with the experience that you've had going on, is what kind of advice would you give to your child self, knowing that where you've been and
Um, Probably more urgency. It's such a blessing to be able to audition for anything. I think
hmm
there's so many people who want to tell stories, who want to do this, and I'm pretty lucky since I started that I had some representation.
yeah,
And I had people getting me indoors, and the idea that like I think I held some things to a higher standard than others. Some things are
hmm
more important to me, or I'm working, or I'm in school, and I wasn't able to give it the attention I wanted.
yeah,
And I don't know if that could even change. But my advice would probably be to take every moment as if it's a golden opportunity
hmm
and the last moment. Just to give it your all.
yeah. Excellent, excellent. That's great advice. I think mine would be, "It's all right, kid. Hang in there."
Yeah. Well, I think Harrison Ford or somebody said just like never quit.
Yeah.
Never stop
hmm
because people quit all the time, and which is fine. Like I have friends who are brilliant and so talented, and they're like, I want to do something else, and I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do something else, you should. Like this is really difficult, and it's not even the fact that it's so difficult. It's all if you're not doing it as much as you like to be, there's something else you can lend your time and talent to. But that idea of never quit always stuck with me because eventually I think things will start to happen for you if
Yeah.
you've done the work. If you've done the work and you have the talent, things will start to happen. you can be. We always joke that we'll be like the Morgan Freeman. Like where was Morgan Freeman when he was 25? No one knew him then. Like Morgan Freeman's always been old. It's like Morgan Freeman like got famous when he was old. I'm sure he was doing things before, but it feels like he hit when he was later in life. So we do this joke that like, well, we'll just have the Morgan Freeman career. That's all right.
Exactly.
Just stick to it.
I think it was Sam Jackson as well, didn't he? Turn around and he said it took him 30 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah. I mean, at least we kind of remember Sam when he was like 30, 35, he was doing it. But that's really grown. He wasn't a teenage or a 20-something success,
Yeah.
He was in Coming to America, and he robbed the...
He robbed the
McDougal's, he was a
yeah.
good 35 already, He had a pretty small role in Spike Lee's School Days, where he was one of the town's guys, and he was... Again, Lawrence Fishburne was the lead in that movie, but Sam Jackson, who's older than him, had a smaller role. He is true. Sam is true. It took him a long time to really hit.
Yeah.
But I find something really endearing about that.
Oh, definitely. There's a lovely story about Sam Jackson as well in his acting. I had a lady on last year called Erin. She was in a film called Cell, which Samuel Jackson and John Cusack are in.
Uh-huh.
And she was doing some improv. She just said there was a scene where I think her brother was killed, and they had to just leave because it was a horror. It was like kind of like a cyber horror. So she had to leave his brother, and she was with Samuel Jackson. And she said on the spur of the moment, she decided that her character was just going to turn back because she wanted to see her brother hug one last time. And as she turned, she said she turned to go back. She hadn't told anyone. It was just a spur of the moment. She turned. Samuel Jackson put his arm out, stopped her, and just said, "Don't. It's not a good idea." She said he was just immediately switched on and knew exactly what she was trying to do and where she was going with it. And he followed through and worked it, so it worked really well into the plot. And it was just like, wow.
That's that shit. That's being on your game. I'm telling you. It's a beautiful thing when you're in tune with your cast,
Yeah, exactly. Just they work. You can just work with each other. I thought that was really, really. That's a great story. I love that one.
That's awesome.
Brilliant. How did you feel then? Well, obviously, we brought you on from your role in The Punisher. How did you feel when you got told your audition for that had been successful?
When I auditioned for The Punisher, I mean, it was only the pilot episode, and I think I have 2 or 3 lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, don't want to do this. It's not, And then it was like, oh yeah, it's Marvel. It's probably going to be, big success. I mean, I don't usually just say no to an audition anyway.
Yeah.
But I do think about the character and what I'm portraying as far as what I'm putting out into the universe. And I have a soft place for vets and for things like that. Of that nature, that military nature. My dad was in the military. So I was like, okay, it's not a lot to do, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And because there's not a lot about him in the script, you have to really do your homework and make something up. I was like, okay, I'm a vet. What war was I in? You have to do all of this work to just to figure out really who you are.
Yeah.
But that was cool. That's the fun stuff. So
Excellent.
I was excited. And then when I got it, I was like, awesome. Because, I found out Jon Bernthal was going to be in it, who I really liked from The Walking Dead. So I was really excited to do it. It was a fun group.
Excellent.
So even though it was really heavy. It was heavy in theory.
It was, yeah. So what kind of backstory did you put in for yourself then?
I decided obviously I couldn't be a Vietnam vet because I wasn't born when the war started. But because one of the other guys was a Nam vet, the big guy. So I decided I'd been in the war in Afghanistan. I had done 3 tours of duty, and that the last one really affected me when I returned home. I mean, they all obviously was cumulative, but the last one especially, I knew I couldn't function the way I wanted to. I was trying. I think that character is like living his life, and he's still going to strip clubs, and he's having a good time. But it's also a way of kind of deflecting how he's really feeling, and it's like a coping mechanism. I think to distract himself to go to these clubs and to maybe be a bit of a playboy. But yeah, 3 tours in Afghanistan. Last one. I've been done for since like I think I decided it was '09. And I hadn't been involved in a group like this for the first few years out, but I was having a hard time coping, so I decided to get myself involved in a group that could talk about just normal things, but also knowing we were all vets and we're all having some issues, just reintegrated into society. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. Did you draw any experiences at all from your personal about that from your family?
No, just things I read, just research. My dad was in the Navy. He had a great time. He was super young, and most of my uncles had avoided Vietnam, and I didn't know anyone who. My grandfather was in World War II. But I didn't know anyone as of recently who had really spent a lot of time overseas.
Yeah.
I'd done some projects with some vets, which have been great. But I really decided to do some research to help build Isaac, figure out who he was,
Fantastic. I actually started doing this was a few years back. The first time I delved into interviewing was with some Vietnam vets. I've got a friend who's a history teacher in the UK, and one of their syllabuses they teach about the Vietnam War. And I was friends. I used to do reenacting about 10 years ago. And I created my own group about the LERPs of the 101st Airborne. And I reached out to them to say, do I have your permission to do this? Because obviously I haven't gone through any training. I'm just nobody. He goes, would you mind if I portrayed you? Because I'd like to show what people, what your units did. And within about an hour and a half, I had 9 emails back from people who he'd forwarded it to, all saying, oh my God, thank you so much. We can't believe anyone would want to even recognise us because obviously the Vietnam vets have gone through such a bad time. When they came back, and they've sent me stuff, the patches from uniforms they brought back, and they've been so supportive over the years and have become friends, good friends with them. And
that's awesome.
So when my friend, history teacher, told me that, I said, well, I've always wanted to speak to them and talk, to kind of interview. And I got his school class, his history class, to write questions.
Great.
I brought on 2. One was a guy called Gary Lindra. He's authored a few books about the era. And the other one was, I've forgotten his name. Oh, no. Joe Galloway, who was, if you've seen We Were Soldiers.
I know it.
He was the combat photographer. He's the one that, he was one of the main ones in the film.
I remember that came out. I don't think I saw it.
Yeah. But he was the real guy rather than the one portrayed or the one in the movie.
Oh wow!
And so I got him on, and I did those, and it was great. And he still uses those in class today. So I thought, it's human
That's
intel.
Sweet. We had there were some vets on the set for Punisher, which was great. There were also some actual vets in that circle.
Oh right, brilliant! I was going to ask about that as well, because I think that's one of the key, and for me, one of the really winning parts of the show. I couldn't think of the right words for parts left to do. One of the key bits of the show was the fact is how it deals with PTSD and veterans, and it shows the differences in types of PTSD that can be going around, because each one of you guys in that circle is got is suffering in a different way. You've like Curtis with his leg gone. There's other people. It's in the head because it's something that's very serious and very real. And I think the Punisher actually does promote that in a positive light, and especially showing the group sessions that are going through.
Yeah, it was really touching. It was really, really moving to be around those guys and to represent them. I have really strong feelings about vets and people who are incarcerated and have been, and the way we treat them and the way they get reacclimated into society. I think it's really shameful. I mean, I don't know how other countries deal with it as much as America, but I think it's really shameful the way we treat our vets and people who have been incarcerated. It's really a tough go sometimes. I think they're getting a little better with our vets, and there've always been groups and nonprofits who work with them and reach out, but I feel like the government do more for them and their families when they come back, and when they're away.
Yeah, it's the same over in the UK. I mean, we've got a lot of the veterans end up on the streets because there's just no support. I mean, I've got a friend who was in a certain regiment. Can't say it online, but he came back out, and I know he's had serious PTSD issues, and there's been no help at all there's there's nothing out there, and so it's the same in this country, I think, as well. It's just we send these guys out, to kill and do stuff on behalf of the country, and yet when they come back, they get treated like garbage. So
it's awful.
It is. So yeah, things like The Punisher, although it's a Marvel comic book, TV show, I think it does highlight that, and it brings it to a mass audience who may not be fully aware of it anyway, because they not, people might go away now thinking, well, what's all this? What's the therapy session about? And look into it, find out, and then that kind of passes on. So yeah, it's kind of a good.
Kudos
it's good
to
in
that.
that.
Yeah. Definitely kudos to the Punisher to Marvel for that.
Yeah. So I guess you weren't a fan of the comic book before, from what we were saying before. You didn't know.
No. I've never been a huge comic book guy. I had some as a kid, but I never was like DC versus Marvel or it was never like that. Wasn't my thing. Our free time was spent like in the streets playing sports. That's what I did growing up. And I mean, I read a lot, but I was into academic reading. I never just really read too much for fun or for graphics. That said, I've always been what kid wasn't just a huge superhero fan? Like Super Friends and all those guys. But I never knew of the Punisher growing up. Not to my adult life. I really appreciate the Punisher. I'm finding that I have the kid in me has been reawakened with some of this stuff, especially the Marvel stuff. So it's been cool to discover it in my grown age.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I was a GI Joe kid, action man, but GI Joe for you. So I out there and with my friends, and we adventure stories. Not just with that, I was obviously running around, playing in the woods and. Being survivalists and doing that's what I was out doing. I wasn't really reading graphics, so I still haven't read many, and people will probably curse me when they realise. But I now and then I'll pick one up, and but I do remember the Punisher when it came out, because it was in the 1980s, and my gran in Newcastle had taken me to the shop to see what it was, and issue number 1 had just come out, and I just saw this guy in black with a big skull, and I was like, I want to read that.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So I remember I had that magazine for about 10 years as well. That comic book number one issue, and for some reason I think in the house move it got lost. I bet that would be worth a fortune.
Now. Yeah.
They're all really valuable, aren't they?
Oh man. Yeah, I wish I had more exposure to that stuff, because I was an avid reader, but it was just what I read what was available, which was like encyclopedias, encyclopedias and whatever we read at school. I never had much in the way of comic books. My mom collected a lot of the Archie comics, but that's it's not quite the same.
Yeah, I don't think I ever fitted. I think by the age of 8 or 9, my favourite book was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Jules Verne. And I was reading that kind of, those kind of novels. My mum was a headmistress and my dad was a minister, so I was always brought up to read, to read educational books.
Yes, like that. Me too. There was no time for comics.
No. So it was good. It's you're raised. It means you've been raised right. Not that I'm saying if you're raised on comics, you're still being raised right. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fine too.
As long as you're reading.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely have the more stricter intellectual reading profile going on.
Yeah. Kind of, how was it working with Jon I can never pronounce his surname. How do you pronounce it? Bernthal? Is it Bernthal?
No, I don't even know. I just called him John or JJ. I think he had called him JJ. I think I called him JJ. I didn't have any scenes with him, but he was around. Like, we had a couple table reads together of the new scripts, and that opening scene, he's lingering outside the door watching the group. So we hung out after that. We both have sons who are young. So we talked a lot about that. He was really into his sons, and he was really interested in mine. And it was just fun to share. I was a really new dad then, so it was really fun to just swap stories with him and talk kid talk. He was super nice guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember you don't have any scenes apart from the fact that he was hanging around behind. He's sort of off because he was still supposed to be dead at the time. So yeah,
we definitely got to hang out. We got to hang out a little. That was cool.
Oh no, that's good that you did that because he does seem to be a great guy. I mean, he comes, you see him in the comic. Well, I see him going to comic cons and people who've met him and just say he's absolutely brilliant. And
Yeah,
it's one of those.
Really awesome.
Yeah, one day I'll have him on my show as well.
Yes,
I have asked, but I think he's got a problem. He's got
he's pretty
issues
busy,
at the moment.
I think. Yeah.
I think the fire's going on in California as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit unfair. But yeah, if you know him, if you see him, just drop him.
I will. I'll recommend it to him.
Excellent. What have you taken away from The Punisher that will help you in future projects?
My thing is always, you're part of an ensemble. Mm-hmm. That show is not about me at all, but Isaac has something to add, and there's a lot of listening. Which is always, I think, a good thing for an actor. So Chris, who you're going to have on later, he tells stories and to the group, and he has most of the dialogue in those. And it was nice to just watch him and just listen and understand what everybody else was going through.
Yeah.
And I think that's always a great lesson for an actor is to actively listen.
Mm-hmm. That's a good thing for anyone. I think you actively listen to anybody.
Yes.
Yeah, as an actor, I think definitely, because then you can start working off people and you learn more and and you end up being like that story with Sam Jackson. I think because if you can just react then with and be in tune with everybody. So it's you
have to always be engaged, man. It's not always easy. But I've never been the kind of actor who's like, give me more lines, give me more. Like I don't mind being part of the ensemble that helps tell the story, and being engaged and never, and not having to talk all the time.
Yeah,
it's cool with me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, even being a part of something like that is, must be really, really good. So yeah, it's fantastic. I was in a film last year, and I did have a few lines. It's an independent film. It's not going to get seen by very many people. Oh, I shouldn't say that. It's really awful.
That's the assumption, but it will be a happy surprise if it did.
It would be, yeah. Maybe this is the time when I get picked up and someone says, "Oh, maybe I'll put him in the ensemble for this show."
Right.
But yeah, that should be coming out this year, and that was a great time. And that again, like we said before, the theatre and film. That was my first. Well, I did one 10 years ago with Michael Sheard, who played Admiral Ozzel in Empire Strikes Back. He was playing Hitler, and I was, because I was reenacting, we brought in and we had to dress up as the German soldiers. It was all about a documentary about how Hitler escaped at the end of the war. Right. So that was my first intro. But last year was the proper one because I was there for 12 hours. I was told I'd be there for about 4 hours, so I didn't have any dinner with me, and I was there for 12 hours. I didn't eat in 12 hours, and
They didn't feed you?
No, they did. They brought crisps and stuff, and I was like, seriously? So they did bring. They brought some. Crisps? Yeah, and a sandwich I think came at 5 o'clock, so that was all right. Okay. But it was like, okay, it was it was the experience, but it was great because I think my scene will probably last about 45 seconds to a minute. And
12 hours.
Yeah, 12 hours for that.
Sometimes, yeah.
And there was a bit at the end as well, which I won't spoil, which I was involved in. But yeah, that's the glory of the filming. Because, like you say, on the stage, you're right there. You mess up, and that's it. You've got to carry on with the filming. There's like 25 different takes as they stopped you. They redid you from this angle, from this angle, from this angle. It's a whole world. People don't realise that.
Oh yeah.
It can be monotonous in a way if you're just having to repeat the same.
Oh, for sure. Hopefully, though, you get better the more takes you do.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't cock up. It wasn't because I was cocked up. I was cocked up because I got wrong. It's just purely they just had to change the camera angles.
Oh yeah,
I was a one-line. I was a one-take wonder for mine. I was really.
That's
impressed.
how I like to live. That's how I like to do it. I pride myself on that, actually.
Yeah, they said the lines were perfect. It was just the fact that they needed it from another angle.
Oh yeah, different angle. But then you might come with a different take or some other energy on another.
Yeah, angle. Exactly. So they might bring it in. And
yeah,
excellent.
Nice to play with it.
It is. You're also on Ray Donovan, and that's still on my backlist of things I've got to catch up on. I'm afraid.
Mine too.
So, what's your character in Ray Donovan? Quickly.
Well, I guess in season 4 they introduced a character who they kind of brought into their boxing circle. He's this child prodigy boxer who was homeless. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen season 4. I think he tried to rob someone, and then they figured out he was homeless, but like a really talented boxer. So they started using him at the, training him at the club.
Yeah.
And he's estranged from his parents, or his parents. Like, I don't know what they said about his parents. I've made my own backstory. But this season, in came his father to this teenage boy, and is trying to reconnect with him. And so right away there was some tension between Ray's brother, who runs the gym, who's kind of taking this kid under his wing, and I think feels kind of like a father figure. And then his biological father comes back in, and he's suspicious of me for maybe wanting the kid's money or whatever. But for me, it's a really heartwarming story of just reconnecting with your son. And I think, I played it as if the guy was pretty on the up and up. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, but he genuinely wants to reconnect with his son. He loves him deeply. And they have a very obvious connection.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. Yeah.
Excellent. And will you be back? Do you know if you'll be back for
They say so, but I don't know if they're going to really continue with the boxing stuff
right
on that show. They're moving to New York from Los Angeles, so I think it'll be a whole new road of stuff going on for Ray and his family.
Right, okay.
But yeah, they said he'll be back, so
yeah, keep fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I will sort of sadly draw into a sort of close on this now with my question. Although happily probably for you, because I know you've got things to do. So this is the question that I'm gonna throw at you. I had on my show last year, I had someone called Mike Quinn, who plays, do you know Nine Numb, the guy, the monkey face guy in Return of the Jedi, who's with Lando Calrissian in the Millennium Falcon at the end? No. Well, he was in Star Wars, but he's also worked with Jim Henson for 30 years. Great, really great guy, but the question came to me for asking him the question, and I thought, you know what, that's such a bloody good question. I'm going to try and ask everyone I can. So if you could have a Muppet made up about your character, what kind of Muppet would it be? It can be an existing Muppet. It can be from Sesame Street. It can be anything, or it can just be a mix of them all.
Of my character from The Punisher, or
no,
me?
your character, you yourself.
Oh, there's this. So my infant has been watching some Sesame Street, so I'm a little more like in tune with the Muppets now than I would have. You asked me this a couple of years ago. I don't think I know what to say. There's one. It'd be a mix of like. There's one who's kind of an intellect. I don't know. He wears glasses. I think he's really into reading. He's a little snarky though, which I'm not. But so a mix of him and maybe what's the big red one? Is that Elmo?
Elmo, yeah, the squeaky voiced one.
Yeah, no, not him. I have an affinity for Kermit, although I can't tell you much about his qualities.
Jordan, this is Kermit here.
Yeah, I love his voice.
Right.
I love his like bizarre relationship with Miss Piggy. Yeah, it'd have to be a Muppet who was about learning, or he might think he's more learned than he actually is. Maybe that's me sometimes. Always striving to be more learned. But I don't know them that well to answer. That's a great question. The guy I'm thinking about, I don't even know his name, but he wears glasses. Wait, isn't there one with a cape? This is the guy I'm thinking about.
Oh, the Count.
Yeah, I kind of like him. Ooh. Let's just say. I fancy myself a bit of a vampire, so let's go with him.
All right, fair enough. Yeah,
some mix of him.
He was a great character. He was great. Yeah.
See, okay, good.
Vaughn. I've got a friend who can do it spot on. It's perfect. Brilliant. And kind of in sort of just before I stop the recording of this, is there anything you'd like to say to people who are watching and listening now?
No, just really thanks for watching. I heard it was the #1 show on Netflix, so that's really cool. Definitely check out Ray Donovan because I hear it's awesome. And please support the arts. Go see some live theater, especially in the UK. So much good theater. I saw like 3 or 4 shows when I was there in July. I saw one show for like £5 at the National. Like score. Yes. So you can do it. It's affordable there, not so much like in New York. So please go and listen to these stories. I think theater is so inspirational. It's my favorite thing to do and to take young people to. So yeah, go to the theater. That's what I can tell people to do.
Thank you.